Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, North Parkers and beyond. Welcome to the weekly word. Today I'm going to be coming to you from Proverbs chapter 5. And it's not just one verse, it's going to be Proverbs chapter 5, verses 1 through 10. It's a little bit lengthier than normal in verses, but hold on, there's a very simple point to be made from it. It says, "My son, pay attention to my wisdom, turn your ear to my words of insight, that you may maintain discretion and your lips may preserve knowledge. For the lips of the adulterous woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end she is bitter as gall, sharp as a double-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps lead straight to the grave. She gives no thought to the way of life, her paths wander aimlessly, but she does not know it. Now then, my sons, listen to me. Do not turn aside from what I say. Keep to a path far from her. Do not go near the door of her house, lest you lose your honor to others and your dignity to one who is cruel, lest strangers feast on your wealth and your toil enrich the house of another." Now, the book of Proverbs in general is written from the perspective of a father slash teacher to a son slash sons. And so it's writing specifically regarding the male perspective in this temptation. But I believe the principle that is being made about how to handle temptation is applicable to all of us. And so I want to come back to this notion. There's a woman who is of loose moral principles. And so this father slash teacher is telling his son how to deal with that temptation. He says, keep to a path far from her house. Do not go near the door of her house. I believe this principle is very clear for how we're supposed to be dealing with temptation. Now, all of us are tempted, and you should feel no remorse or guilt for being tempted. Christ himself was tempted in every way common to man, though he sinned not. So temptation itself is not sin. It's not the sign or the indication of being morally weak. Similarly, dancing on the razor's edge next to temptation is foolish and is not a sign of spiritual maturity or strength. You should not consider yourself stronger morally or spiritually if you're able to draw near to temptation. You instead are a fool for dwelling near where you know temptation to be. So how should we deal with temptation? It's there. It's a part of our lives. But what Proverbs is very clearly teaching us here is don't play with fire. Don't get as close as you can to temptation to prove to yourself that you can resist it. That's being foolish. It is not being wise. I would like to make a caveat here. I would like to make maybe not an exception but a distinction. Yeah, I think a distinction is the accurate way to look at this. One of the problems the Jews fell into, and also Christians do as well, is that God would give his law, this is his rule, this is what we're supposed to do or not do. And the Pharisees would add on to that with good intent of trying to not break God's law. If we build a barrier around his law and then we don't break that one, then there's no way we could break his actual law. And how Christ responded to that was he said that you've heaped up a burden on the shoulders of people that they cannot bear. God's laws are what we're supposed to be honoring and upkeeping and obeying. And so this issue of not playing with temptation is not the same of creating a whole new rule book to stay far, far away from the actual rules that God has given. In your life, whatever it is you may be tempted by, lying, adultery, stealing, anger, whatever it may be, if things tempt you to sin, find a way to keep them away from you. Because just like chocolate cake, if you're on a diet, there's nothing wrong with chocolate cake. It's delicious. But if you're on a diet and trying to lose weight, you know you shouldn't go to the grocery store and buy a chocolate cake and set it on the dining room table with a knife to cut it and a saucer right beside of it and a glass for your milk to go in so that you can prove to yourself that you're strong enough to resist it. No. I have found that I'm very good at not eating ice cream that's still at the grocery store. I'm not very good at not eating ice cream that's in my home. Similarly, don't invite temptation into your home. Don't live with it. Don't dwell beside it. Don't allow temptation to be next to you. Rather, get as far from it as feasibly possible and thereby grow spiritually mature and thereby grow spiritually strong. Not by being able to resist that which is near, but being wise enough to keep temptation far from you. I hope this is a blessing to you. I hope it relieves you a bit, and I hope that your week is a very good week. May God bless you and keep you. May He cause His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Thank you. And good morning, good afternoon, or good night.